Blake?
Here.
Carberry Montgomery?
Here.
Kroll?
Here.
McBurney?
Here.
Obrecht?
Here.
All right, then as for the agenda, motion by Blake,
Second.
second by McBurney.
Blake?
Yes.
McBurney?
Yes.
Kroll? Yes. Carberry Montgomery? Obrecht?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 3 then is to discuss partial rental rate review. And Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep.
Or not? Okay. Will be a unique one of more of, I think, a dialogue. No decisions will be made tonight, as AJ and I are talking about. If there's any direction, we'd go through the Park and Rec Commission. But there had been questions in regards to the rental fees at our park shelters. So I shared with you, and I have, hopefully you have all of these copies on your desk as well. Staff did a great job of doing a lot of research, what area communities are charging. And in summary, we fit right within the middle of some areas. So in the small venue category, Lion Shelter is in the lowest 3. In the large category, actually the senior center is the lowest price, and Giovanetti Shelter is right in the middle. So we have the number of rentals is percentages ranges between 46 and 52. So one facility with the offer different price tiers. One facility isn't rented a lot more than others. They're all pretty consistent. And we have obviously different price tiers, and we think that meet the needs of the different rental needs of our community. A lot of times the Lion Shelter and Senior Center are for the smaller events, birthday parties and family events. Giovanetti Shelter typically is the larger events. One of the handouts that we provided is a question from Councilmember Kroll was what type of events are held at the different facilities. So those are shown in one of the handouts as well. So I could certainly continue on, but I'd like to get your reaction to this and any information that I could share with you.
Jan, quick question. In this usage information, when it says the total dates, is that all day or is that a portion of the day? Or do you know off the top? I mean, I guess it's probably broken down in this new information
Right.
where you have the time frames specifically, but do you have a sense off the top of your head?
The new information that you should have the handout, like Lions Shelter, there were 79 rentals, 30% or 24 were 8 to 3, 39 or 50% were 4:30 to 10:30, and 16 or 20% were the full day. And that information is on each one of these handouts. So it looks like the majority for all of them, the highest percentage is the evening, 4:30 to 10:30 rental times, but it varies for each one. And I will also share some information that I found out today. We did look at these in the rental periods in 2013 when Giovanetti Shelter opened. We did look at our rental times. At that time, we had 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then 5:30 to 10:30. And we took some look at the trends and input and changed that then to 8 to 3:30 and 8 to 3:30. 8 to 3, and then 4:30 to 10:30, because a lot of times people wanted time to set up for their evening event, and if they had earlier events, they'd be done by 3. So that has been, since 2013, that was a positive change that we made, and people like that.
Have we done any sort of data survey, any sort of like when the optimum time is for folks?
We don't, because, and again, I mentioned it, I think in the letter, but consistent with every one of the places that we researched is the weekend rentals, it's 2 rentals per time period. Now, some of them go later, the 8 to 4:30, ours is 8 to 3, but 2 rental periods because of the cleaning contract. We don't have staff during the weekends. So the question came up of, well, how long does it take to clean a shelter rental? We have 3 enclosed and some outdoor rentals, so that cleaning contractor has to get to all of them. Renters don't, some clean better than others, but I compared to AJ today for my mom, even if somebody slept in the bed once and you have guests, you're gonna clean the sheets again. You need a cleaning contractor coming in and to take the garbage out and so forth. Renters aren't gonna be doing that. So that's one of the things, talking with park staff, Molly is here, the recreation superintendent, and Scott Hoke, the assistant director, and that was one of the things we talked about with cleaning contractors. Everybody is having a hard time finding staff, but if all of a sudden we started changing, okay, this Saturday it's 8 to 12, and then 1 to 3, and then 6 to 10, there's no time to clean in between, would really get complicated. But to your question of, do we know what people would prefer? These are the rental times, so they don't say, oh, I wouldn't use it for those hours. We did make fewer hours, as I said, when we adjusted it in 2013, but we haven't gotten complaints. For Lions and Senior Center, and I talked to staff, Tanya has been here 24 years, and she had said, we don't get complaints about the prices. Giovanetti surprises them. We encourage them to call around, and 90+% call back. And we are the very reasonably priced for what we offer at Giovanetti, the regional playground next to it, the setting that it's in. So it hasn't seemed to be an issue.
I guess on any of these, is there staff on site during any of these rentals with Giovanetti or any of that? Or is it all, we're turning the keys over basically to the renter and letting them use it?
We have a key fob. So weekdays, Giovanetti is when we have staff. But weekends, Friday evening, Saturday, Sundays, so we program key fobs where someone cannot get into the building. It's programmed for, say, 4:30 p.m. They can't get in before. Now, obviously, it doesn't kick them out at a certain time, so we do have challenges sometimes of them leaving at a certain time. Our parks close at 10:30. But they come in to pick up the key the Thursday or Friday before. We explain everything. They have to sign off that they understand everything. They do the hold harmless. $200 damage deposit for Giovanetti, $100 damage deposit for Lions and the Senior Recreation Center. If no damage is done, if they return their key and they've cleaned up, they get their damage deposit back.
So we don't hold a credit card on file and charge it if damage.
No.
We make them cut us a check and cut them back a check.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't hold credit cards for anything. Nikki Lamb twitches if I even mention that. So no, we don't hold credit card information.
Do you have a sense of how many times we have double time frames utilized? Like an 8 to 3 and then a 4:30?
Yeah, I don't have that tonight, but I certainly can
Yeah.
get that.
Well, and I can look at it. I just wondered if you had a sense off the top of your head, like it happens like once every 6 months or.
Usually springtime and summertime, it's very common, especially weddings and graduation time. It's very, very common. A little bit less during the fall and winter months, which makes sense. Not as many family gatherings.
Yeah, I would say April to August, pretty consistent.
I know,
Like the 8 to 3, the all-day rental time, so you'll see a lot of that is used as well.
Yeah, I know whenever you try and do something in the afternoon, you're pretty much screwed. You know, like you're going all day regardless of what you want, even if you only need it for, a 2-hour event.
Yeah, it either has to start at the 4:30 or have the whole day.
well, I know I've received a few complaints on the pricing, and these have been from folks that lived here in Urbandale, and they feel like it's not conducive for them to be able to utilize the space, particularly the Giovanetti shelter. And I know it's based on the per hour rate, which I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to analyze that, just because there is a minimum usage, right? You have to book it for that 6 hour period, right? From 8 to 3 and then from 4:30 to 10:30, right? I just don't know if there's anything that we can do to make it more inclusive for our city to be able to better utilize that space, because we have, what you said, it was a 52% usage rate on the weekends for the Giovanetti shelter, I think is what I read. I feel like it really should be the communities to use, and if we're seeing half of the year used, I don't know if we're quite hitting the mark. But I don't necessarily know how, I don't necessarily know how to get to that sweet spot where you can either lower the required number of hours, but then you have to up the cleaning costs because they have to come back more often, right? So I don't know exactly where we need to fall within that, but that's, like I said, I know I've received 3 complaints in the last 2 months about it, which I think is what kind of sparked all this conversation to begin with.
Some of the things we've talked about internally, when we had some of the initial discussion, it was trying to gauge where you collectively wanted to go as a group, is that if you're looking at a level of affordability for the community, then that's one component of how we rent. And that's essentially just lowering the dollar amount that's required. The other issue is more of a structural issue about how we go about renting the shelters, the 365-day advance, you can get into there, the cleaning contracts, those type of things. And so really it's the pricing is probably the easiest thing for the council to address. We don't recover all of our costs, but if you reduce the pricing, then there is going to be the reality, if we're going to provide these other services, then that means that we're just going to essentially subsidize some of those activities. And that doesn't make it wrong or right. We're just, if the pricing issue is the main component that the council believes keeps people out of the shelters, that's more easily addressed than more of the structural issues about how we go about making shelters available.
Well, and when we say that we're not recovering, what all goes into it? And I think that's one of the things that I was missing was specifically what are the costs that are associated with it. Yeah, I know we had the cleaning costs, but the staff costs that go into it and the maintenance upkeep and, just being able to see.
Usage,
Yeah.
electrical costs.
Right, being able to see the breakdown of where those costs are at. Grand scheme, I don't know if there's anything that we can do to tackle the costs necessarily, as opposed to, as you said, being able to just flat out lower the rate and maybe look at it from lowering the rate specifically for residents, right? To make it more accessible for the folks that live here.
And that question did come up in regards to what are the costs. The direct cost would be the cleaning cost.
Right.
If you wanted staff time in regards to when somebody calls up to reservation to the end, we can, I guess that's more
Be a little bit
direction from
harder.
you. Do you want staff time for administrative to our park staff to what it costs for heating, cooling, whatever? I don't know how far you want it to go. Obviously, a lot of our services is the service to the community. So the initial for this meeting is, for Giovanetti, it's $135 a time they come in to clean. So if there's 2 rentals, so per rental, that's the cleaning, if it's morning, afternoon, or the whole day. And it's $110 for the senior recreation center and $90 for the Lion shelter. So again, lower depending on the size and the cost of the rental and so forth. So if that's something that you want in regards to, this is what it costs to have this facility and operate it, heat it, cool it, maintenance, we can do that. And like AJ had mentioned, 2 different things here, and I've talked at length with staff today in regards to if the ultimate goal is just make it more reasonable for residents, that would be an easier thing for on our end of programming and operations, but changing the time and adding times adds a number of complexities of programming key fobs for every weekend, 3 weekends, and the cleaning thing is a significant one. And I certainly can appreciate and understand if I had a birthday party and it's going to be 2 hours and I have to pay for 5 hours. That's why, again, we had the tiered rate where Lions is a lot more reasonable. And it tends to be the size of the event is depending on the facility. So Giovanetti typically has the bigger events, but certainly it's your directive. I guess we just wanted to share from staff's perspective of that would be an easier bite to take than it just adds complexity to add rental times, but we can make.
What about
For work.
starting it later? Do you have folks who are often like, hey, can we get in any earlier than 8?
Get that almost every rental, and the answer is no. We can limit, because their key fob doesn't work, the 10th, the challenge in the evening, park closes at 10:30.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean, in the
but-
morning, like, do you have people who ask if they can get in before 8?
Yeah, my
Is
wife
that-
is usually the first one to ask that.
Everybody asks that, and no, the key fob will only get you in, because
Sure.
otherwise, somebody's coming in earlier for the second rental, and it's consistent. That's what's wonderful about a key fob. It used to be the key.
Oh,
People would
right.
come in Friday before, and there's a renter, and I brought my stuff. And so we've learned a lot over the years. We used to have a fee if you had alcohol. We used to require a police officer, where, as you see the rental rates for in other communities, they require that. And we've done a lot of adjustments, listening to the community, trying to keep it reasonably priced. And I remember when we did it in 2009, the goal was, okay, we don't want to be the most expensive, we want to be fair. There's 1 or 2 council members that thought Giovanetti rental rate was too low when we set the current one. So it certainly, we are open to the direction of you as a council, but just wanted to share in regards to the complexities adding if you change rental rates. But Scott?
I was gonna, real quick question though. So we're looking at kind of the 2021 numbers and 2022. 2019, I was thinking Giovanetti was a lot busier.
We did
Is
look
there a
at
good
those
sense of that?
numbers
Okay.
and didn't include them on, I figured we sent enough information.
We got a lot of
to
data,
you.
but yeah,
It was pretty
2019 before.
consistent. We're back to pre-COVID numbers.
okay.
With our programs, with our rentals. Would you say that's, everybody's back?
So we
to-
don't have a hangover still going on this. This is what you would expect the rentals to be.
Yep, we're pretty much back to the numbers we had in 2019. And
Sorry.
again, we're talked at staff-wise, what is the goal to rent it? 75% of the time, 90% of the time? The more you rent it, the more expenses, the more use. But that's certainly, again, that's the directive of you as a council.
And I know one of the fears that I have is I know that we're going through the master plan for Lions Park, which is going to include, likely, based on the sketches that I saw, either a renovated or expanded shelter in that general vicinity. And how is that going to impact costs? Because right now, Lions Park is the cheapest rental that you can have for an indoor shelter. And how is that going to impact the ability and accessibility for folks to be able to get into any of our indoor shelters? So that's why.
We do anticipate, and just to clarify, and this will be coming forward with the master plan, but the shelter, any improvements there right now is limited to that $700,000, or you have to go to a bond referendum. So right now, the anticipation, anything with the shelter would be tied likely to a bond referendum.
Gotcha.
So we're talking splash pads and tennis courts and pickleball courts and so forth. But we obviously have one next spring and then police station. So we're talking
It might
5
be a
to
while,
10 years
yeah.
out with anything likely with the Lions shelter.
Right.
From what, my opinion and what's coming out of the master plan. And talking with Nikki and AJ and everything. So
Yep, that makes sense.
for whatever that's worth in this discussion, but again, and Scott, did you have a point to make?
Sorry. And this is going back a little bit to Councilmember Kroll's question in regards to coming in earlier. Part of the conflict with that is the cleaning company, if there's a Friday night rental or is that, we just can't, they might come in the morning and clean as opposed to clean at the end of the night, I think.
I was asking more in the way of, could we start the start time at 10 a.m. versus 8 a.m.? Or, because it's a lot easier to do that on the front side than adjust on the back side, if that helps alleviate costs.
Some of the hours.
Yeah. Just for some of those folks who are like, I only need it for 2 hours and now I'm paying for full, you know. Yeah, that's why I was asking. It looks like it's 16.6% of the rentals are double days. So we have a total of 192 times that it's double booked. No, that's not right. 32 out of 192 double books on the same day. So if that helps think through that too. It's 16.6% of the rentals occur on the same day.
And as EJ had mentioned, if, as this discussion goes, changes are made, increase, decrease, whatever it is, we do allow rentals 365 days ahead. So that will have to be taken into consideration as well as when does that start and when does that affect rentals? And AJ and I compared to, or you had said, yeah, last week I filled up my car and it was 20 cents cheaper, and now it's, you know, that's just keeping that in mind of people are renting right now for August of 2023.
So I guess that brings up a marketing question. Rent within the next 30 days, can we offer a discount as a fill-in time? You know, somebody rents with it, you know, they're taking the risk that it's going to be booked, but if it's booked within the next 30 days, there's a discount because it wasn't going to get booked anyway.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of ways to,
That's more of a marketing thing.
or saying
That's a nice
this date it starts and it's going to be less, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't wait, yeah.
There's a conference that I'm going to that they've started to say, every 100 tickets that's sold, the price goes up. So try to get people to book early, but I didn't know if kind of the reverse of, hey, here's the price if you book 365 days, but if it's less than 30 days out, we're going to drop the price a little bit because we know it probably wasn't going to get used anyway.
Yeah,
To increase
there's a lot of
usage.
different ways
Yeah,
to address that. I just wanted to mention how far out we rent.
So remind me again, what's our break even, like for,
at least 100, and 100 a time for cleaning basically, right?
What's our?
Just
rental
cleaning.
break
rates?
even for our cleaning is roughly 100?
For cleaning, or for the?
135, that's
135 is the cleaning for Giovanetti.
Okay, thank you.
Senior center is 110 per cleaning, and Lions Shelter is 90. And then we have different rates for the open shelters, but it's not part of this discussion, I don't think.
I guess implementing a discount like that, would that be difficult to do, or
Of changing the rates?
like a late booking discount? I don't know.
20% off or,
We don't have it, it's available on Friday, and so if you want to get Friday, you get a 20% discount because it's vacant.
Yeah,
Yeah. It would be, because on Sportsman, 65% of the people rent online, so that would get complicated if you start making that change. I'm sure, yeah. And I'm not sure if I'm fully understanding what you're proposing, but
so say like I am needing a place and I'm like, oh crap, I need it in 2 weeks. What's around? I noticed that Lions Park, whatever, is still available. You know, the reality is at that point, it's likely going to go unfilled or unutilized. Is it possible then to book it like at a 50% or 20%, you know, whatever, we can figure out the number, discount at that point? Because I mean, on one hand, yeah, you waited too long. On the other hand,
Better to get half.
it's
than
better to get half than nothing,
nothing. I
exactly.
see what your point.
spouse is going to be in trouble waiting that long, but.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, some of us got a letter on March 3rd that our street was going to be torn up starting April 9th, and we had things going on late April that was like, oh, crap.
Because people can get a refund up to 2 weeks prior. And once it's 2 weeks before a rental, then there's no, because of,
Okay.
no one else can rent it then. So there's a lot of different angles to look at it, certainly.
and when are you scrambling on a rental? So if they were booked for tomorrow, I'm guessing that's a scramble to try to get the key fob and get everything done. When's the too late to book date?
I think we typically say 10 days, just to get it on the schedule, and then it can be done, anything can be done.
Yeah.
So if it's in that, say, 2-week to 6-week out time frame, that's still very doable, doesn't cause
A whole lot of grief.
a whole lot of grief. Maybe it could be a test program to say, hey, we got some facilities, use them, see if price is what's keeping people away.
Yeah, we can talk to Tanya to see the programming of our online thing. I'm sure it's doable.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a way just to test and see, you know, yeah, is it price? I mean, I still think there's a time issue in there. I'd be curious to look at what other timeframes other communities use and if it may all be the same. I have
That's
no
on
idea.
this
Yep,
big
it's on the sheet.
If I keep on looking, keep digging.
Yeah, so most of them, and again, some might say 2-hour minimum. The weekend ones are the ones that it's a minimum of, like West Des Moines, a minimum of 10 hours, or minimum of a certain number of hours. So most of them on weekends, it's like what we have, 2 set rental time.
Well, I just think that we charge too much at Giovanetti. And I don't like that we have to book a year in advance. Because as someone who just went through the graduation party ordeal, I don't know if you know when graduation is at this point. And so we rented, and it killed me because I felt very strongly that we needed to have the party in Urbandale, but we're not at-home party people, that we had it at Fox Ridge in Waukee. It cost us $180 to rent it for the whole day. Yes, it's a third of the size, but I think it's the most comparable to what we have at Giovanetti in terms of amenities and niceness around the park, you know, like stuff to do outside and playgrounds and things like that. So, and I only had to book that the math was really hard, let me tell you, to figure out when 6 months was and a minute or less. But so I booked it for the whole day because 6 months out, we didn't know when we were gonna have the party. We were lucky to have a day picked, but I just feel like for those hot times, we're asking people too far in advance. And I have rented Giovanetti for a family reunion, and we rented it all day. We, you know, had alcohol, so we had a police officer, and, you know, we split the cost between, 50 people of my cousins. It wasn't terribly expensive, but it still was, well over $1,000, and this was in the mid-2010s. So I don't know. I just think that it should be more accessible of a price.
I'll share with you that people that are planning weddings
Yes.
want more than a year ahead of time.
I know, but
Yeah, and Lions Shelter, I would say probably similar to what Waukee, but again,
not really in terms of quality, I would say. Not to demean our own shelter, but, I mean, and I also think it shows that we need more shelter space or, in
Rental
Urbandale,
space.
and I know that's a huge cost and,
hopefully if the community recreation complex
exactly,
will
yeah,
have more rental space.
exactly. But that's just my hot take on the conversation, but I appreciate all the comments and questions by my colleagues, so.
Is it safe to say that we're looking more at a pricing issue than a scheduling issue? If we were looking to focus on something?
I think they combine, I mean, to be honest, because if you can condense the schedule, like I'm looking through, like some of these have 2-hour minimums, 4-hour minimums. Like even if you could condense it within that same time frame, like, okay, so you're gonna do a brunch, you only need it from, 9 to 1 rather than 8 to whatever, 3:30 or whatever the time is. I mean, that also helps keep your cost at bay as well, if you're meeting your minimums. So we're still not like going over, we're still meeting our needs to be able to break even and pay for cleaning, but we still stay within that structure schedule. That might be
That's
a
the
win too.
complexity of if you're changing every single weekend and the cleaning, we need 2 hours for cleaning. So if all of a sudden Lyons is done at 11, Giovanetti's at 1, cleaning
But it wouldn't
contract-
matter because the cleaning would still be the same time.
Yeah, I think what she's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're saying is you continue to keep the 6-hour blocks, but you only charge the people for what they need. So if someone says that they only need
But I think
4,
if we go to that, now you gotta,
Though,
Then
now
you
you gotta
need
do a
somebody to
cleaning
kick them
fee
out.
plus hours. That-
You have people that are staying, you can get people not to go in because of the key fob. You can't get people to leave. We have people all the time, oh, I'm going to use it till this time, and they are in there longer.
but we're going to run into that regardless.
What was that?
We will run into that like you already run into that. So we're not eliminating that. We're not necessarily adding to that problem either.
And I guess if you look at some of the ones that are the 2 hours or blocks, they have a time plus a cleaning fee. So they've broken out their costs. Whereas ours is just a block of time cost. And so we'd have to go to, hey, if you're renting it for 2 hours, yeah, we'll charge you $20 an hour, but then we have a $100 cleaning fee.
Yeah.
Compared to how other communities have dealt with that. I mean, we've got the simplest pricing of anybody on here. I mean, that's one thing I love about it. Yes, it's big blocks of time, but I don't know. I guess I'd be willing to try, if the system allows for it, that, try a discounted price for that, for a window of time that makes sense,
6 weeks prior?
and see if price is the issue. I'm not sure price is the issue.
Right.
I think we have nice facility that people covet, and so they think it should be X price. Well, it takes a certain dollar amount to operate it. But see if price is the issue, a test run might tell us differently. Would people book it in a short period of time? And yeah, as far as a year out, yeah, my wife used to do the CVB stuff, and they were wanting 14 to 16 months out planning. So.
Just, it's almost 10 till 6, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Let's go back and we'll take a look at some of the notes here and see if we can't come up with a couple suggestions, looking at some pricing and scheduling options for you.
All right.
Sounds great,
Do you
thank
have
you.
what you need from us?
I think so. We'll come up with some options.
We'll figure it out.
I'm not sure we gave you really any direction, but it is a good discussion to
We'll
have.
talk as well. Again, if this is something that we want to proceed with of changing something, again, it would go through the Park and Rec Commission first. So however this goes, we'll prepare some information for you and you can react to it and we'll see where we go from there.
Thank you for
right.
really
All right.
digging into this. It's appreciated.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Jan. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
Second by Cole, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned for the work session, then we will reconvene for the regular city council meeting at 6 PM. All right.
Who's this? Who's that? Who's that?